Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Mark, a trainer here at WEX Field Service Management, and today we're covering onboarding, getting started in WEX FSM. This webinar will cover your onboarding terminology and timeline, data load information, where to access your training in the Help Center, account setup, adding users and dispatch groups, how to contact customer care, and we'll do a live Q&A at the end where you'll be able to get your questions answered live on stream. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into WEX FSM. When you first log into your system, you will be brought to the schedule page. And today's topic is onboarding. So, you have signed up. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of buttons to click. You may not know exactly where to get started. And we have made that very easy for you. When you're on the schedule page, you will see a getting started button in the top right in the center. If you hover over this, it welcomes you. Curious where to start? We have you covered. We've got an onboarding getting started article. That's a step-by-step guide. Also provides where you can contact support and hours of operation for our support team. You can just, hover, move your mouse over, and click on the Getting Started article. This is the very first place to start. We have everything laid out in a timeline. Our articles here have a table of contents on the side. Actually, all of our articles have this. And when you click on this, if you want to learn more about data loads, that will drop you down to that section of the article. So as you click on these, it itemizes out to each section for quick access. Now, I do recommend that you bookmark this page or just go to it frequently. We have a welcome tour video for you here that walks you through just kind of like, day one of being in the system. But I'd like to first talk about our onboarding terminology, the terms you're going to hear us say during onboarding, and just the timeline in general of you getting your account set up, learning the software, making the switch, and getting your data set up. So when we say onboarding, that is the period of time from when you sign up to your official switch to using WEX FSM as your main software. When you first sign up, we will do what is called the initial data load. If you are loading data, we load things like customer history, invoices, payments, things like that. And we will load that from a previous software into your new system, WEX FSM. And while we're doing that data load, you will be training in the software and learning how to use it and getting the account set up, adding your users, getting your price book together, things like that. The Help Center, which is this little smiley face guy with headphones down here, this little button, this is the Help Center. So whenever someone says, oh, just go to the Help Center, that's what this is. And the Help Center, when you click on it, has a lot of resources here. And from here, this will be your main training area. You'll find all your training here. You will be able to contact support, search for articles, view tickets, see what's coming up with news. And we'll dive a little deeper into the Help Center later, but that is what the Help Center is. And you will hear us reference the Help Center during onboarding. And really, I mean, the Help Center is huge no matter how long you've been with WEX FSM. Now, make the switch. You may have heard us say that before. When we say make the switch, what we mean by that, that is the date that you will stop using your previous system or software and start using WEX FSM as your main system. And the reason why this is important is if you are loading data, before you even started with WEX FSM, you're loading data into QuickBooks, maybe another software, competitor software, and you're entering your customers, your invoices, your payments. You're getting a lot of data into that system. When you switch to WEX FSM, you're going to want all of that data in your system so you can continue where you left off in the previous system. In order for that to happen, we will do the initial data load, which will load the bulk of your data. But even after that first data load, you're still going to be entering into your previous software for a little while you are learning the new software in WEX FSM. And then on the make the switch date, on that day, you will stop using your previous software and start using WEX FSM. And that will be the official cutoff date for entering data into your old system. We will then do a second data load that will grab all that data you entered during that initial time after sign up to your make the switch date. And that way you will have a full system of record from your previous software in WEX FSM. And if you're syncing to QuickBooks, after you make the switch, on make the switch day, you will see a pop-up that will allow you to submit your data for that second data load, and the sync to QuickBooks will be off during that time while we load that last bit of data. That usually takes between 3 to 5 business days. And during that time, you will just be loading everything or entering everything into WEX FSM, and it will save there. So for example, if you're using QuickBooks, let's say, on your make the switch day to your second data load being loaded, it will all save in WEX FSM. If you go and look in QuickBooks, I made a new customer. I don't see them in my QuickBooks yet. Just realize you won't see that info in QuickBooks for a few days while we're doing the second data load. Then the data team will turn the sync on, and that is the very last step of the onboarding timeline where we turn the sync on. Now, all the new stuff you've been adding into WEX FSM during that first make the switch week will sync over to your QuickBooks. And now you will have a full system of record in both systems with the sync turned on, and everything new that you add into WEX FSM will sync over to your QuickBooks. So there you go. That is the onboarding terminology, so you know what each of these terms mean and a general timeline of what onboarding looks like. Now let's talk about data loads a little more in depth. And you have access to this article as well. So at any point, you can come back to this and reference it. Just remember to get here, you go to that Getting Started button from the schedule page. Now, data loads, the initial data load during signup, which you may have already completed this step, is submitting from your previous software. Now, if you're curious about what that data load looks like, or if you have questions about, what information is actually coming over. I know I've heard you say customers, invoices, payments. Is that it? Are my maintenance plans coming over? Are my, appointments? Like what is everything that's coming over from my data load? We have created data articles that talk about this. So I'm just clicking on the Help Center here and click on Help, which is a great place to search through our knowledge base. And then you can type in whatever your previous software is. Let's see if like Field Edge is in here. Okay, let's do Field Pulse. So if you type in your previous software, you should see that pull up, and it'll be your previous software to WEX FSM. Click on that, and now you'll have an article that kind of explains what exports from your previous software, what we load, and some expectations for that. So that is a way to get a little more detail on exactly what is coming in from your initial data load. And a pro tip when you're using the Help Center, anytime you're reading a article, like this is the Field Pulse to WEX FSM article, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can click Open in Help Center. And if you do this, that will open the article in its own web page that you can then bookmark, share out if you need to. Um, so just a pro tip for using the Help Center there. I do this all the time. I like to have my articles open in a separate tab. Okay. Then for your, well, another tip, another thing to consider when you are talking about data is you don't want to make any edits or merge or delete any type of data because we're working with your data to get it loaded. So when the initial data load goes in and the initial data load is finished, you're going to be able to see those customers in your customer list, those invoices, those payments. And if you start updating and switching and changing names and addresses before the second data load, then that may disconnect some pieces of information and you may have some data load errors in the second data load. So we do recommend that while you're in the onboarding period that you just leave your data alone unless it's like absolutely necessary, in which case you would want to reach out and communicate to customer care just to let them know or even ask them, like, is it cool if I do this? Good rule of thumb though, just let the data load happen. And then any adjusting that you would need to do afterwards, you can merge and edit all you want after the data load is fully complete. And we have been talking a lot about data loads because that is a very important part. But if you have no data, you're not loading data from a previous software, then you don't have to worry about making the switch, initial load, supplemental data load, because you don't have any data to load, which is great. You can just start using the system right away. That is something else to know is your system is a live site. So on day one, you could technically go in and just start using it. You can start making appointments, creating proposals, invoices, taking payments, everything that you would need to do is ready on day one. If you have no data, you can just start your first day adding customers, making appointments, taking payments, everything you need. If you have data, we recommend that you do not touch the data until the data loads are complete. So some tips about your data loads there. Next, let's take a look at, actually, let me check my notes real quick just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yes, excellent. So next, let's actually, before we move on to where to find your training, let's just dive a little deeper into your Make the Switch day. So I do have another article here. If you would like to find this yourself and bookmark this, you can. Just go to the Help Center, go to Help, and then type in Make the Switch. And what I'm looking at right now, what we're going to look at together is the Make the Switch Day confirmation. Click on that. Scroll to the bottom. You can open it in that new tab like I have here. And let's talk about this. So today is the Getting Started in WEX FSM webinar. We're going to go through like training, dive a little deeper into that. We do have another session called Onboarding, Getting Ready to Make the Switch, which I do recommend attending right before you're ready to make the switch, just to go over any final checklists. You can sign up for that in the Help Center. If you go to the Help Center and go to Home, Video Courses and Webinars, and right here, if you click into the calendar, let's actually see when the next one is. So today is March 3rd. And so we have right here, Monday, March 9th, getting ready to make the switch. And we will reiterate the make the switch day. We'll reiterate what we're going to go over here briefly, and we'll go over it in a little more detail during that session. And that's great because between today's webinar and the next time you go to that getting ready webinar, you should have done all of the tasks that we are setting up today, which we will go over a good checklist for you before we end the stream today. Now, for your make the switch day, you will, you're going to go to sleep the day before and you'll wake up on make the switch day, go into the office, log into WEX FSM, and you will get a pop-up on that day, on your make the switch day. And that pop-up will look something like this. It will say, your make the switch day has arrived. Congratulations, are you ready to go? Being ready to go just means that you are officially ready to start using WEX FSM as your main software. And you've got, your appointments ready, your system is ready, you know the software a bit, and your team is ready. You've added your users, etc. If you're ready to go, you'll hit next step. And yes, let's go. And this will be a pop-up in the Help Center down here and a little questionnaire that you're filling out. If you are not ready, let's say that you didn't download the app to your technician's devices and you just need a couple more days. You can say, no, I need to reschedule, and you will just reset your make the switch date, which is fine. And then I need help is like, you know what? I'm a little confused. I need some help. So you will be connected with the customer care team. But let's assume you're ready to go. Let's get this, ball rolling. Yes, let's go. What date did you stop entering data into your old software? And that would be today's date, today in the future, the make the switch day date. Enter that here. That way the data team, this part is important because what date you put here, the data team will load your data in the supplemental load, that second data load. They'll load everything up to that date that you put here. After that, this will give you the opportunity to then submit your data for the second data load, which would be submitting the same way you did for the original data load. If you're coming from QuickBooks, you'll export another backup file from QuickBooks. If you're coming from, let's say a competitor software, some of them require you to download your data as files, and then you could send that to us. Or you would give us login credentials and we'd be able to log in and grab the data that we need. Whatever you did when you initially signed up is typically what you would do for the supplemental load. But once you submit that, you're good to go. You will, the data team will do the second data load to get that info into your system. And then when we turn on the sync and have everything loaded, that will be the end of onboarding. All right, so let's go back to our getting started article. And now let's talk about training. So I'm sure both of you have clicked around the site and looked at some stuff. I believe one of you, actually, I think both of you have come to webinars before. And so you may have already seen a lot of things, but we have specific training in a checklist format that will allow you to learn the software. And let's see where to find that now. In the Help Center is your main place to find your training for onboarding. And we'll click on the little smiley face guy here. That is the Help Center. And we want to go to tasks. So the very last tab here, tasks. This is your onboarding training. This is set up and optimized for you to learn the system and just make sure that every place that you would need to check out and update, we have here. So you don't have to do it alone. We've got a guide for you. Now, if you are syncing to QuickBooks, you will have a QuickBooks Sync training. If you are QuickBooks Online, you'll have a QuickBooks Online training here. If you're QuickBooks Desktop, you'll have a QuickBooks Desktop training here. Now, this account that we're in is a QuickBooks Desktop account. And if you are QuickBooks Desktop, it does require that you have a sync tool installed. So QuickBooks Desktop Sync requires an application called the sync tool. In order to get the sync tool, you do need to click on this link right here and schedule a sync install meeting with our customer care team. Now, it's about a 30-minute meeting. That would be you in a Zoom call with a WEX FSM support rep. They will install everything for you, teach you how to use it. It's a very simple process, but it is something that needs to be installed before you make the switch so that app is ready when you start syncing. If you are QuickBooks Online, you do not need the sync tool. In fact, everything is cloud-based with QuickBooks Online, and we just use your login credentials to grab the info that we need. As you scroll down, it will also talk about what sync is and how it works with a video. We've got customer sync, invoice sync, payment sync details. We have accounting and tax details, how you can stop something from syncing and have a little more control over what syncs, and then how to run a sync. Once you are working your way through these sections, you can mark them as complete, and then that will update the progress bar. And it's really nice. You can work on this, leave, do other stuff, come back, and it will show you your progress. You always know where you're at in the training. Let's take a step back here. And next, let's take a look at initial setup, which is right here, initial setup. So the initial setup is going to teach you how to add your users. Each of these sections have their own videos. Just as a pro tip, if I click on this video, right, it's a little teeny tiny, and we want to watch it big. You can click the full screen to full screen the video. And these are hosted on YouTube. So if you just click on YouTube, that will open it in the YouTube application. So if you're a big YouTube user, maybe you want to save some of these tutorials to a playlist, you can absolutely do that on YouTube after you go to YouTube from there. But this will teach you how to add users, how to assign dispatch groups. I highly recommend that you do this, review admin settings. The way that WEX FSM works is you typically have an admin page where you're setting up templates or preferences. And then once you save those will then show up in your normal job workflows as drop-downs, as selectable items. So you want to make sure your admin settings are set up on the back end so that when you're actually making invoices and proposals and appointments, those have the defaults that you want for your business. To do this, you will click on each of these links: business details, job types, contract terms, warranties, pricing defaults, price book. Go to every one of these pages, look at the information, and just make sure that it is what you want. And then when you're done, complete Learn the Basics. And that is now a checklist. At the end of that, your users are added, your groups are set up for dispatch, your admin settings are set up, and you're in a good place. Then you can go to Learn the Basics. This will show you how to navigate around the system. We'll show you around the site. talks about appointments. This Office Basics is a video course that is just appointments, dispatch, managing jobs. It's kind of a mixture of a lot of different things that everyone who works in the office should be considering. How to run a job from the field. We have mobile app training here. Payments and insights. Learn more about taking payments in your system and collecting. And then advanced learning. If you click continue learning here, that will bring you to our video courses and webinars page, which you most likely will be uh, looking at this page very often because this is after you're out of onboarding, we still have training and support available for you. And this is the page that offers that. We've got signing up for additional webinars. So you may have already seen this because you're here, but this is where you can access our live stream calendar. And then down below, we have video courses. These are the most popular features that we have available, and each of these are video courses that teach you how to use them. And then our webinar recordings are here. So if you can't make it to a webinar, let's say you can't make it to the getting ready to make the switch session, you can just watch a replay of it here and get all that same information on your own time. Let's take a step back. And so that's learn the basics. Next is making the switch. So let's click into that. And this goes over when you will stop using your old software. Double check your user settings. If you're going to use card readers out in the field, which would be like a Bluetooth card reader where you're swiping the card, it takes the payment. Also, processing fees are lower if you're swiping cards versus manually entering cards. You can order your card readers from the link here. Reminder just to download the WEX FSM mobile app for your team. Recommendations on how to get your appointments from the previous software into WEX FSM. And then just a place to review your data, just to make sure what has been loaded in the initial load is what you want and good to go. If you're looking around and let's say, there's something missing that you were expecting to load or something loaded and it just looks weird to you, you can always reach out to customer care from the home tab right here, contact support, and just ask them about it. Going back to tasks, which is your main training in onboarding, we will go now to daily to-dos. Daily to-dos is just, we understand the industry. We know that most who are going through this training are working in the office and helping kind of keep the company together. And there are some daily tasks that you may want to consider. Reviewing your job flags, so learning about the job list where you can see your flag jobs. Using the flag for follow-up feature is so important if you have any type of follow-ups that you may need to do for your customers. And this will show you some good places to look at your flags in bulk. Close deals with the proposals report. Maybe you work with commercial companies and you're doing some big estimates. We want to show you your close rate, how profitable are these jobs? And the proposals report, job summary, great place to do that. Check your cash flow. If you're the person in charge of the money and money coming in, you will want to go to the receivables report. So we have a link to it right here. The receivables report is where you can see all of your invoices in your system, what their statuses are. Are they overdue? Who owes you money? And you can also send out payment reminders in bulk. So you can literally send a reminder to everyone who owes you money to pay their bill. And it's really nice when a lot of people pay their bill all at one time after a reminder goes out. Fulfill maintenance commitments. If you are, let's say you have a maintenance plan program This will show you where you can see the maintenance scheduling report, maintenance plan customer report, and the maintenance plan list. And then if you're syncing to QuickBooks, this is just a reminder of where you can see auto sync statuses for your invoices, customers, and payments. And just to give you an idea of what this looks like, I'm going to click on the invoice list. And after everything in onboarding is complete, that means that all of your data has been loaded into WEX FSM and the sync has been turned on, and now syncing is happening. When you create a new customer, a new invoice, take a payment, all of these actions will save in WEX FSM and then sync over to your QuickBooks. But you want to have visibility into what is syncing and is it syncing correctly. And a page like the invoice list, which you can get to from jobs, invoice list, will bring you to the invoice list, and that has an auto sync column. This will show you the sync for every single invoice in your system. And you may see something like this where it says not ready. Details is in red. That means that there's something missing preventing this from syncing to your QuickBooks. You can click on details here and actually do your own troubleshooting from this page. Now, this one in particular, this says the invoice does not have any line items or line item descriptions and cannot be synced to QuickBooks. Just a pro tip. Invoices must have items added to them. Even if they're $0 items, it must have an item for it to sync over to QuickBooks. So actually this error that we're seeing here, or really this not ready, it's going to fix itself the moment I put a item on that invoice. But just know the invoice list here is a great place to see that auto sync status and make sure that everything is syncing correctly. All right. And now let's go back to the schedule page. And to wrap up the training talk is, you want to learn the system. We know that we'll go to the help center, we'll go to tasks, and we'll do the training here. That will get you through the basics, your initial setup, setting things up. But you're going to want to play with the system. Like, especially if you're a hands-on learner, I got to click on the button to understand what it is. And to do this, we recommend using the example customer. Everyone's system starts with an example customer. It's just a customer in your system that would be used for testing the software. Like right now, if you sign into your system, as long as you haven't deleted them yourself, you should be able to type in example or example customer and see them show up here. The example customer is a great account to keep separate from your real customers. You don't want to be testing the software and accidentally send somebody a message that didn't pertain to them. So using the example customer, great way to test things out. You can do anything you want with this. I recommend if you're really wanting to see what your customers will see, put your phone number as the mobile phone and your email as the email. And then if I schedule an appointment with example customer, I'll, get an email or a text and see what my customer will see when I'm scheduling with them. So great account to use while you're training. An example of this, if we go to the schedule page, you're watching the video on appointments. Okay, click new. All right, pause the video, come over, try it out. New. Let's use the example customer. You do have to spell it right and select the example customer. And now we're using the example customer to create an appointment. So use the example customer, test out the software, create appointments, invoices, proposals, etc. And then after onboarding, you can go in and delete all the example customer stuff if you want, if that gets in the way for you. But it is good to keep that example customer because if someone needs to, let's say, troubleshoot something with you, or you even want to troubleshoot or test something new yourself, example customer is great for that. Okay, let's go back to our getting started article, and that is the Help Center. That's finding your training resources. And we went to video courses and webinars, but just to reiterate where that is, you go to the Help Center, go to the Home tab, and right here, video courses and webinars. That is going to be where you're signing up for new live sessions, courses, video courses, and the past webinar, the webinar recordings. Okay. And we went through these. So each of these initial company setup, learn the basics, etc., is just a summary of what you will see in the task section here if you're using this article, which we did. And we talked about make the switch, daily to-dos, and that is good. Now, just some tips for you. What not to do. So we encourage you, absolutely, use the system with the example customer. Uh, do the training. Add in appointments. You know, there's a lot that you can do while you're learning, but some things that we recommend not doing is just be careful with editing or altering your data during the data load process, which would be during onboarding. You will continue using your previous software until you make the switch. And so you don't want to be entering into both systems. You know, if you're, uh, we just got this new system, WEX FSM, and I want to use it. So you start using it here, but then you're also doing it in your previous system. You're doing both. That's going to really mess up with the data transfer because it won't be clean. We won't be sure what we already have and what we need to load. So I would continue to enter everything into your previous software until you make the switch date. Uh, and just know that any payments, new customers, locations, invoices will all be loaded either in the initial load or the supplemental load. And you won't be able to see everything until after the data load is complete. Uh, I recommend not merging customers. You don't want to alter that customer information. You can do all merging after you make the switch and the sync is turned on. And then, of course, if after the data is loaded and you notice that there is something missing or something doesn't look right, you can always reach out to customer care. Okay. And so we have a couple minutes left here. I have 3 more things to talk about, and then we'll get into our Q&A. So let's go into WEX FSM, and we're on the schedule page, which is that first page you'll see when you log in. And let's go to subscriptions. This is another thing to consider in onboarding. We're going to go to settings, subscriptions, right here. The subscriptions page, this will show you the subscription plan you're on with WEX FSM. If you click to payment options, This is where you can learn more about and sign up for financing. This is where you can accept, if you want to process checks in your system, we do have check processing. Save yourself a trip to the bank, but that is a subscription, so you would add that here. And you can order your Bluetooth card readers from here as well. And then additional products. Now you have your, WEX FSM, WEX Field Service Management account and subscription. But we have add-on products that you can add in addition to your subscription. And that would be Zoom Phone, Profit Rhino, which will be a like a flat rate pricing, vehicle tracking with Azuga, advanced reporting. And this is where you can learn more about those. So I'm not going to dive into these today, but if you are interested, you can always view more here. And you can sign up for these and add them to your account with the red plus button. It should look like this icon, the red plus button, if you haven't signed up for it already. Okay. So that is subscriptions. That's where you can get a little more feature out of your system by putting on some add-ons. And now let's actually do some work in the system. So we are going to create our dispatch groups and add some users. To do this, you will go to Settings, User Management, Dispatch Groups. Now, dispatch groups are a way to group your users on the schedule page. So right now, I'm on the schedule page and I have a drop down right here that says dispatch group. And currently it's on the field techs. So if I just want to look at my field technicians, I use that. If I want to see everybody, I made a group for all users. So we've got my entire team. If I want to just look at, what's the office doing right now? You can look at your office crew. And it's just a great way to organize your dispatch board based on who you want to see. To set that up, that is where you will go to that settings, user management, dispatch groups page. And you can add a new dispatch group from here by clicking add dispatch group. And you can also edit current groups from here. You'll just select who you want in the group, add a name, and hit save. And those will show up in alphanumeric order once you add them here. But we need to add users into these groups so they will show up on the schedule page. And that is a very important thing to know. If you add your users in your system and then you go to the schedule page, if you have not added them to a dispatch group, they will not show up. A user must be added to a dispatch group in order for it to be shown on the dispatch board on the schedule page. To add a user, you will go to Settings, User Management, Users. And from here, you may only have one user so far. That's okay. To add the rest of your users, you'll click Add User. And we're going to use our technician, Dustin Bailey, here actually as an example. So I highly recommend, as soon as possible or as soon as you're comfortable, adding all your users. That way, that piece of the checklist is done, and everyone who needs access to the new system will have it when it's time. So add your users from here. Their email address and password is what they will use to log in to WEX FSM. So you'll want to create and then send that to them so they can log in. And then assign user to dispatch group. You can assign which group you want them to be in from here. And remember, if they're not in a group, if you have nothing here, they just won't show up on the schedule page. And then down here we have permissions, and this is where you can get detailed for how you want this user to use the system. What do you want them to see? What do you want to hide from them? How do you want them to interact with the software? Admin, the admin role is unlimited access to everything. The office role, it has everything the admin has, so technically they could have unlimited access to everything, but this is where you would come in and really detail the permissions. Maybe this person who's working in the office, you want them to run the schedule, but you don't want them to necessarily see all your revenue coming in. You can, do a reporting tab visibility and turn that off. And then field technicians only have access to the mobile app. So it's great for the field technicians that, they are going to use the mobile app. It's engineered for them to do work out in the field and has everything they need. But if you have someone who does need to log into the desktop version, but they work primarily in the field, I would recommend setting them to admin. That way they have access to both. When you're done with your user, you will click Save. They will be added to your user list, and you'll send them their credentials. Now they'll be able to log in and have access there. Okay, that is all the information that we have for today's session. I hope that you learned something. We are going to go to our Q&A now, but I just want to say thank you so much for joining. My name is Mark with WEX Field Service Management, and this has been Onboarding, Getting Started in WEX FSM.